At a glance, it feels as though importance is something that we all decide on. That whatever you feel is important to you is important to me. And that just feels like the way it is across the globe. If you take a look into things much deeper, it looks like that really isn't the case. And when I feel like regularly throughout these episodes or broadcasts, I keep on saying that it always isn't the case. But in this case, it always isn't the case because we somewhat value different things. Now, what does value and importance have to do with each other? Well, going back to the question of importance, how then do we answer the question of what makes someone important? Now, so to answer that question, I think we'd have to tweak that question a little bit and add a bit more subjectivity to it. And by that, I mean what makes someone important to us. By doing this, that changes the question from just being a question where something that all of us decide is important to being one where something that I have to look at myself internally and figure out what's important to me, just as you have to figure out what is important to you. When doing this, what comes up is that the level of importance that we hold someone to, or how important someone is to us, is based on how valuable we find that person to be, or maybe how much we value the things that we're able to get, or the resources we're able to get from the other person, even if we don't really care about that person in the first place. So, by doing that, then that brings both influence and priority into question. And really, these are somewhat two sides of the same coin, but I'll start with priority and then move on to influence. So when it comes to priority really is just a comparison between two things that we value. So if we want to figure out how important something is, then we look at our priority list or look at that person's priority list. Now, in this case, I'm using us or ourselves. We look at ourselves because when trying to figure out our own priorities, it becomes perhaps difficult to figure out or how much we say this is more important over this. So it's much easier to see look it's much easier to look at our own action to see what we prioritize over something else. So in this case, that's why then I used ourselves as a priority list. Now, this then means that ultimately we're the ones who decide how important something is or someone is to us. We're the ones who assign the value or the importance to that thing or that someone. And there's not really this doesn't only account to the people that we meet on a daily or that we're close to, but also people who would say are in powerful positions. And given that I've said that, when we look at people in powerful positions, generally we find them valuable or important because they have access to resources or they will give us the resources that we need or that we want. But we still are the ones who decide whether that thing or resource that they have is important to us or not. We're the ones who assign that value. And by, well, to figure out how we assign that value, we'd have to figure out how we want our life to lay out, what we think is important to us or what we want to be important to us, the type of life that we want to set out. And by doing that, we then assign what is valuable to us, then we assign what is important, and then by doing that, we see then we're the ones who assign which people will be important to us since they're the ones who have the resources that we want. Now, of course, there are some people that this doesn't really apply to, or rather, their access to resources is something that everyone would want. And then mainly I'm speaking about presidents or perhaps people in powerful corporations or global. So in that case, there are some people that this doesn't really apply to, but for the most part, this applies to almost everyone. So that's something you can use. And now speaking on people in powerful corporations or people that this what I just said doesn't apply to, who have influence. And well, influence, like I said, is just the second part of the coin. It's just the second side of the coin, where on one side we have what someone prioritizes, or say in this case we're talking about someone. I'll use myself an example in this case. So I value someone, right? Or I find that person important. Now, influence really is just that from the perspective of the person who's prioritized or being valued. So say you prioritize me, then in that case I have influence over you based on, and that influence is measured by how much importance or how much you prioritize me over something else. So influence really is just the flip side of the coin, where it's the person. So I'm the person being valued or prioritized. That means then I have influence over you, or that thing, or the thing that you prioritize. Then that thing then has influence over you. So that's what influence would be. So for importance, to summarize, importance really is just a measure of how much influence someone or something has over the particular person in question. And then in seeing that, that shows how valuable that thing or person is to the person in question. And that then shows how much that person prioritizing that thing over someone else. That is, of course, if we have something or a situation of relevance to compare it with. So important really is a lot of things, and then it can, I suppose, get dark depending on what you choose to have influence over you. But ultimately, we are the ones who decide what's important to us, and so really important then is just what we make of it.